How many times have you wondered if webinars are still a big thing or they're dead, replaced by live videos on social media? Well, it's important to have an answer to this question because we all know that webinar tools are expensive. In this video, I'll give you that answer. I'm Alessandro and I'm an online entrepreneur, and in this channel I teach you how to quit your full-time job, how to get remote clients, and how to regain your personal and financial freedom. If you like what you just heard, subscribe to the channel with the red button below and click on the bell so you will get a notification every time I will post a new video. But let's talk about webinars. Are they still a big thing or they're dead? Welcome to the Growth Academy. Webinars. Nowadays everyone knows the meaning of this word, mostly because of the pandemic. But if you work in the online world as I do, you already knew this word before the pandemic. You knew what webinars were. Well, are they still a big thing, or can you use a live video on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and soon LinkedIn to do a webinar? Do you actually need a webinar tool to do a webinar? Well, the answer is simply yes. You still need webinar tools. And let me tell you why. In the past years, I asked myself the same question. Was it worth to pay for a webinar tool license when I could do a webinar with YouTube Live or with Facebook Live? So I did a little experiment. I did one webinar with a webinar tool. In my case, I used Demio. And then I did another webinar using YouTube Live. And then I compared the results I got, and I realized that there is a big difference between a webinar done with a webinar tool and a webinar done with the social media. First of all, webinars are webinars. When you enroll, when you join a webinar, there is a ritual that you have to go through to watch the webinar. You have to register, there is a follow-up email series, you're waiting for the webinar to start, and then when you join the room, you are totally focused on what's going on that page. With social media, it's not like this. If you watch a live video on Facebook or a live video or a YouTube video, it's not like this. You are never 100% focused on what's going on. Your audience will have distractions all around. If you are doing a Facebook Live, your audience will be distracted by newsfeed. They will always have the impulse to check the newsfeed and see what their friends or their acquaintances they're writing. And on YouTube is the same exact thing. You can watch a YouTube Live, but then you have the related videos, the videos that you probably like. There is always that sidebar if you are on the desktop computer, or if you are on mobile, you just have to scroll a little below the video that you're watching and you will have a list of the other videos that are related to the one that you're watching. So it's all about distractions. People that are watching a live video on a social media or on YouTube, they're really distracted. They will never be 100% focused on what's going on. But with a webinar tool, it's not like this. When you are on a webinar tool room, you are 100% focused on what's going on. Sure, you may have other distractions. Maybe you have the phone on the table and any other distractions, but that room, that page that you see, that you have in front of you, there is no distraction there. Everything that is happening there, it's all created to grow the engagement in your webinar. And that's the second reason why you should use a webinar tool to run a webinar, because with a webinar tool you have a lot of tools to grow engagement with your audience. You can use polls, you can use the chat widget that you have on the page, you can use call to actions. So you have a lot of things that you can use to grow the engagement, to have an engagement, to have a relationship with your audience. Personally, I use Demio, as I told you, and I think that Demio is the best tool on the market to run webinars, and Demio gives you the possibility to use a lot of features, a lot of tools, a lot of elements to grow the engagement. And it's something that you will never be able to do with the social media, for example. And by the way, if you want to try Demio, and I totally suggest you to try it, because my business will never be at this level without using Demio. And I suggest Demio, to use Demio to all my students and everyone I know. That's how much I love that tool. Well, anyway, if you want to use it, if you want to try it, you have a link in the description of this video to try Demio for 14 days. And this is enough time to understand if Demio is a good thing for your business or not. other two things that I can tell you to convince you to use a webinar tool instead of using live events. One thing is the fact that there is no lag time. When you do a live event on Facebook, it's really irritating to see that there is a lag time when you talk and when people on the other side of the screen will receive the sound of your voice. You can do a question, you can ask a question, and then you have to wait for 10 seconds before people on the other side of the screen will listen to you. But with Demio is instant. You don't have this lag time. The second thing is the perception that people will have of you. Everyone can go live on Facebook or on YouTube, but with Demio it's different. When you do a webinar on Demio, you are professional. People will perceive you in a different way. They will feel that you're actually professional with your business. And this will make a big difference when you will promote your product or promote your course. And to make your experience with Demio even easier, I have a gift for you. In the description as well, you will find a document with a list of the 5 things that I do, that I set on Demio every time I run a webinar. There are 5 different things that I absolutely need to set, and they have to be set in the right way to get the more results possible with Demio. So you will have this list in the description of this video, and it will help you a lot to start with the right foot with Demio. Bottom line, webinars are still a big thing. Obviously, you should use live events on Facebook, on YouTube, on social media. You definitely have to use them, and I use them, but webinars are a different thing. When you have to do an event that is actually more important than usual, that's the moment that you use a webinar, that you use a webinar tool to run a webinar. And you know, the false assumption that many people have with webinars is the fact that you use a webinar just to sell your online course or your product. It's not like this. You can use webinars in many different ways. For example, I use webinars every time I add a new masterclass on my membership area. I have this membership website that is called the Growth Accelerator, and every month I add a new masterclass there. And every time I add a new masterclass, I do a webinar, a free webinar with Demio. I do this free webinar and I explain what the new masterclass is about. But at the same time, I use it to grow trust and to have a better relationship and a better and a stronger bond with my audience. Once in a while, I do webinars that are totally free and I don't promote anything. But I know that every time that I run a webinar like that, I get a stronger bond with my audience. I have a student who creates group calls with Demio. Creates these group calls, and for a number of weeks, it runs a number of people through a course, a live course. I have another student who uses Demio to do one-on-one coaching. So you have many different ways to use webinars. You don't just have to promote your new course or your new product. It's not just for launches. This is an important thing that you have to understand before you start using webinars. So get in the description, try Demio right now, and remember to download the document with the 5 things that you have to set every time you start a new webinar. Question of the day: what is the topic that you will cover in your next webinar? Write the answer in the comment area. I'm totally curious to understand what are the topics that you will cover for your next webinars. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel, like this channel if you like what I talked about. And it's really important because based on the number of likes, I understand what kind of videos I have to do in the future. So like this video, subscribe to this channel, and for the rest, I'll see you in the next video. Cheers, mate.